Good evening, everyone. Greetings to the Honorable Minister Erdoyal, Chairman of the panel. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Lojini. My team and I have been appointed as a consultant by the Ministry of Public Services to provide a preliminary report on the analysis of the effectiveness of a performance management system in the government and parastatal bodies in Mauritius. So let's now come up with the agenda. We will cover following points, that is research objectives, demographics, descriptive statistics, one way ANOVA, means plot, regression analysis, analysis for residuals, and finally the recommendations. So coming now to the research objectives, to determine whether PMS improves training and development processes and contribute to retaining employees in the service, to analyze the impact of PMS on whether it is regarded as a transformational process rather than an appraisal process, to determine whether PMS fosters high-performance work cultures in the public service, and most importantly, to determine whether the frequency of performance appraisal has an impact on the effectiveness of PMS in the public sector. From the demographics data, we can see from the chart on the left the highest percentage of respondents, that is 39.5%, are from extra budgetary unit, which also represent approximately 45 respondents. We have 35.1% from Department of the Ministry, followed by 23.7% from the Ministry, and lastly, the least percentage of respondents is 1.8% from other bodies of the public sector, representing 2 respondents only. The second bar chart shows the percentage of respondents and the number of permanent employees. 39.5% of the sample size, 114 organizations, have less than or equal to 49 permanent employees. 22.8% of the 114 organizations have greater or equal to 200 permanent employees. The 22.8% represent 26 organizations in total. The third bar chart shows the number of years the organizations have been using the current PMS system. 6.1% of 114 organizations, representing around 7 organizations in total, have just started using the PMS system, like 1 year back. 32 organizations have been using the PMS system for 1 to 2 years. 52.6% of the organization, representing 60 organizations in total, have been using the PMS system for 3 to 4 years now, and finally, around 15 organizations out of 114 have been using the PMS system for 5 years or more. From the table on the screen, we can see that the minimum statistics range from 1 to 2.33 and the maximum statistics range from 4.43 to 5.00. There is no significant difference for the mean statistic. The values lie in the range of 3 approximately for all 7 indicators demonstrating average effectiveness. And for the standard deviation, the values lie in the range of 0.5 to 0.8 approximately. So for further analysis of the PMS effectiveness, we can also check for skewness and kurtosis results on the table. So the values are negatively skewed for all parameters. It's showing negative figures. In a negatively skewed distribution, the mean of the negatively skewed data will be less than the median. From the table, we can notice that the standard deviation is constant for skewness. Skewness is used along with kurtosis to better judge the likelihood of events falling in the tails of a probability distribution. For kurtosis, some values show negative figures and others positive. However, the standard deviation is constant for kurtosis as well. Coming now to the one-way ANOVA test. The ANOVA test was carried out by my team in order to determine whether the frequency of a performance appraisal has an impact on the effectiveness of PMS in the 114 organizations. The each 2 years period has the least number of respondents, that is 15, and the mean is less, 2.76 compared to the two others. The test of homogeneity of variances shows no significant difference. Significant values are greater than 0.05, so it can be assumed that the homogeneity of variances is equal to variances, and the PMS effectiveness results indicate the significant value as 0.02, that is less than 0.05. This concludes that there is a significant difference between the period of performance appraisal. So therefore the null hypothesis is rejected. Means plot. Mean of PMS effectiveness overall is higher when frequency of evaluation is biannually 3.2888 as shown by the red arrow. When the frequency of evaluation is each 2 years, mean of PMS effectiveness overall decreases drastically to 2.7620 as shown again by the red arrow. The post-hoc test. Homogeneous subsets. From the data collected, it can be noticed that values for annually and biannually do not have a significant difference. That is, for annually it is 3.2540 and biannually it is 3.2888. The significant value shows no difference since it is greater than 0.05. The value is 0.071. Next is regression analysis. One of the most important types of data analysis is regression analysis. It is used for the estimation of relationships between a dependent variable and one or more independent variables. Regression analysis also uses the historic data and finds a line of best fit, but does so statistically, making resulting line more reliable. So as you can see in this example, the R squared is 0.177 and 0.603. which indicates that 17.7% and 60.3% of variance in the PMS effectiveness overall can be explained by the frequency of evaluation. The p-values are 0.023 and 0.0, which is less than the significance level of 0.05. This indicates that the regression model as a whole is statistically significant. That is, the model fits the data better than the model with no predictor variables. Coming now to the significance of f, that is the p-value. The lowest value in the table is the p-value associated with the f statistic. To see if the overall regression model is significant, so the p-value is if the p-value is less than the significance level, there is sufficient evidence to conclude that the regression model fits the data better than the model with no predictor variables. The variance inflation factor, that is VIF, identifies correlation between independent variables and the strength of that correlation. It is the best explanation of the relationship between the independent variable and dependent variable. Statistical software such as SPSS calculates a VIF for each independent variable. VIFs start at 1.5 new upper limit, a value of 1 indicates that there is no correlation between this independent variable and any others. VIFs between 1 and 5 suggest that there is a moderate correlation, but it is not severe enough to warrant corrective measures, so there is no need to again perform the test, etc. VIFs greater than 5 represent critical levels of multicollinearity, where the coefficients are poorly estimated and the p-values are questionable. Analysis for residuals. So from the first picture, the histogram, we can see that there is one outlier encircled in red. The curve is skewed to the right. It means that the data is not normally distributed. From the second picture, the scatter plot, we can notice that one point lies far away from the main data distribution, that is above 4. And finally, in the p-plot graph, the line of best fit helps determine some degree of uncertainty. And we can clearly see the diversion from the line of best fit, which shows the presence of outliers. Coming up with the recommendations. So data sets for the frequency to conduct performance appraisal annually and biannually are nearly similar. We recommend that the Ministry of ICT, along with other relevant ministries, to formulate appropriate policies to facilitate the uniformization and digitalization of PMS across the public sector. They can agree on conducting such activity annually, since results are showing less effective for performance appraisal each 2 years. We recommend that training committees of ministries make the necessary arrangements with the Civil Service College Mauritius to mount appropriate training courses for officers at all levels in areas where performance gaps have been identified. Provide PMS-related trainings to employees who join the public sector to enable them to deliver along the same lines as their fellow colleagues, and ensure that their supervisors or head of departments are trained on the carrying out of performance appraisal and evaluation exercise of employees on their performance against established criteria. Lastly, we recommend that annual salary increments should continue to be awarded after taking into consideration efficiency, diligence, commitment, including availability and regularity of employees at work based on open and recorded performance assessment ratings. Finally, no increment shall be earned in case an officer is unfavorably reported upon.